He ruled an empire built on fear. Tonight was supposed to seal his legacy, a wedding that would unite two criminal dynasties. But when the church doors opened, she walked in, his ex, the woman he left to protect, and in her arms, 3 reasons his world would never be the same. 3 infants, 3 months old, 9 months since he walked away. She whispered 2 words that shattered everything. "Congratulations, Dad." This is the story of a crime lord who discovered that the most dangerous thing he ever faced wasn't his enemies. It was the truth. Welcome to a love that refuses to stay buried. The church smelled like expensive lilies and old family secrets. Dae-hyun stood at the altar in a Tom Ford suit that cost more than most people's cars, his jaw tight, his eyes forward. 24 pews of crime lords, politicians on payrolls, and associates who smiled with guns under their jackets. This wasn't a wedding. It was a merger. A consolidation of power between 2 families who'd been spilling each other's blood for 3 generations. His bride, Min Seo, waited in the bridal suite. Beautiful. Strategic. The daughter of the South Side Dawn. Their marriage would end a war and double his territory. He didn't love her, but love had no place in his world. The organ began. Wagner. Bridal march. Every head turned toward the back of the church, and that's when the doors opened. But it wasn't his bride. It was her. Aaliyah. His heart stopped before his brain could catch up. She stood in the doorway wearing a simple black dress that made her dark skin glow under the stained glass light. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. She didn't need it. She never had. But that wasn't what stole the air from his lungs. It was what she carried. 3 infant carriers. 3 tiny faces. 3 pairs of eyes that hadn't yet learned what the world would demand of them. Triplets. The church went silent. Not the kind of silence that comes from respect. The kind that comes right before someone gets killed. Dae-hyun's second in command, Jin, moved his hand toward his jacket. Dae-hyun raised one finger. "Stand down." Aaliyah walked down the aisle slowly. Her heels echoed against marble like a countdown. Every step closer felt like a reckoning he didn't know he'd been running from. She stopped 10 feet from the altar. Their eyes met. He saw exhaustion there. Strength. Something that looked like forgiveness and fury woven together. But no fear. She'd never been afraid of him. That's why he'd loved her. That's why he'd left. "Congratulations on your wedding," she said softly. Her voice was steady, warm, the same voice that used to whisper his name like a prayer. Then she leaned closer, just enough that only he could hear. "Congratulations, Dad." The word landed like a bullet. His world tilted. 3 carriers, 3 infants, 3 months old. 9 months since he'd walked away from her apartment in the rain, telling himself it was to keep her safe, that loving her was a death sentence in his world, that she deserved a life without blood on her doorstep. He'd left her, and she'd been pregnant. Aaliyah, but she was already turning, already walking back down that aisle with his children in her arms. The church doors closed behind her like the ending of something he didn't get to write. The organ started again. This time, his actual bride appeared. Min Seo walked toward him in white lace and dynasty expectations, smiling like she'd won. But Dae-hyun couldn't move. Because for the first time in his life, the most powerful man in the city had just been brought to his knees. By 3 babies he didn't know existed. He went through the motions, said the vows, signed the papers, kissed Min Seo while cameras flashed, and crime families toasted to peace. But his mind was in 3 infant carriers walking out of his life before he even knew they were part of it. The reception was held at his family's estate. 20 acres of guarded property, fountains that cost more than small houses, and enough security to invade a small country. Crystal chandeliers. A 5-tier cake. A string quartet playing something classical and emotionless. Min Seo worked the room like the politician's daughter she was. Shaking hands, laughing at the right moments, playing her role. Dae-hyun stood near the balcony, a glass of whiskey in his hand he hadn't touched. Jin appeared at his side. Loyal, lethal. The only man Dae-hyun trusted with his life. She left an address, Jin said quietly, slipping a folded paper into Dae-hyun's jacket pocket. Dae-hyun didn't ask how Jin got it. He didn't need to. You want me to verify? Jin asked. Verify what? That they're yours. Dae-hyun's jaw tightened. I know they're mine. He didn't need a DNA test. He'd seen Aaliyah's eyes. The way she looked at him wasn't accusation. It was truth. And truth, in his world, was the rarest and most dangerous thing. What do you want to do? Jin asked. That was the question, wasn't it? What could he do? He'd just married into an alliance that controlled half the eastern seaboard. His new father-in-law had soldiers in 12 states. This wedding wasn't about love. It was about survival, about legacy, about an empire that demanded sacrifice. And now he had 3 children he didn't plan for, with a woman his world would see as a weakness. In his business, weakness got you killed. Find out where she's staying, Dae-hyun said. But don't approach, just watch. Make sure she's safe. Jin nodded and disappeared into the crowd. Dae-hyun finally drank the whiskey. It burned, but not enough. 3 hours later, he stood in the bridal suite. Min-seo sat at the vanity, removing diamond earrings that were a wedding gift from a weapons dealer. She looked at him through the mirror. You've been distracted all night, she said. It's been a long day. It's been a successful day, she corrected. Our families are united. My father is pleased. Your organization just doubled in reach. She turned to face him. You should be celebrating. I am. You're lying. Min-seo wasn't stupid. That's why her father chose her. Beauty and brains wrapped in dynasty expectations. Who was she? Min-seo asked. The woman with the babies. Dae-hyun's expression didn't change. No one. Dae-hyun. She stood, crossing the room in her white silk robe. We may not love each other, but we're partners now. I need to know what threats exist. She's not a threat. Then why did the entire room go silent when she walked in? Why did Jin's hand go to his gun? Why haven't you looked at me once since she left? He met her eyes then. Cold. Controlled. This conversation is over. Min-seo studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. Not warmth. Strategy. Fine. Keep your secrets. But remember, secrets in our world don't stay buried. They become ammunition. She was right. And that terrified him more than any rival ever had. The address led to a small apartment in a neighborhood his security team would call unprotected. Dae-hyun sat in the back of his bulletproof sedan 3 blocks away, watching the building through tinted windows. Jin had already done a perimeter sweep. No threats. No signs she was in danger. Just Aaliyah. Alone. With 3 infants. His infants. He'd been staring at the building for 40 minutes, unable to make himself move. You want me to go in first? Jin asked from the driver's seat. No. Then what's the play? Dae-hyun didn't answer, because he didn't have one. In his world, he always had a plan. Every move calculated, every risk assessed. He'd inherited an empire at 25 when his father was killed, and he doubled it by 30. He didn't make mistakes. But Aaliyah had always been his biggest one. He'd met her 2 years ago at a hospital fundraiser. She was a pediatric nurse. He was there because his family donated a wing to bury bad press. She'd looked at him like he was just a man. Not a crime lord. Not a legacy. Just him. They'd talked for 3 hours. He'd fallen in love in 2. For 8 months, she was his secret. His escape. The only place he could breathe without the weight of an empire on his chest. She didn't ask about his business. He didn't bring it to her door. Until someone found out. A rival family. A threat. A photo of her leaving his penthouse. And Dae-hyun knew. Loving her was signing her death warrant. So he'd ended it. Walked away in the rain. Told her it was over. Didn't explain. Didn't let her fight for him. Because in his world, love was the most dangerous weapon anyone could use against you. He thought he'd saved her. Instead, he'd left her pregnant. Alone. Raising 3 children he should have been there for. Boss. Jin's voice cut through his thoughts. Someone's coming out. Daehyun's eyes snapped to the building. The door opened. Aaliyah stepped out, one baby strapped to her chest, the other 2 in a double stroller. She wore jeans and a sweater. Her hair was in a messy bun. She looked exhausted, and still the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. She walked to the corner store, maneuvering the stroller over uneven pavement. No bodyguards, no protection, just her. Daehyun's hands clenched. She was vulnerable, exposed, and it was his fault. Get closer, he told Jin. The sedan rolled forward slowly, staying a block behind. Aaliyah bought diapers, formula, baby food. The cashier smiled at the triplets. She smiled back, tired but warm, the kind of warmth his world had forgotten existed. When she walked back outside, Daehyun opened his door. Jin's eyes widened. Boss! But Daehyun was already stepping onto the sidewalk. Aaliyah saw him immediately. She stopped. The stroller's wheels locked. For a moment, neither of them moved. The city hummed around them. Traffic, distant sirens. Lives that didn't know a crime lord was standing on a public street, unguarded, staring at the woman who just made him a father. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. I know. You just got married. I know. Then why? Are they mine? The question came out rougher than he intended. Aaliyah's eyes flashed. You really have to ask? No. He stepped closer. But I needed to hear you say it. She looked at him for a long time. Then she bent down, adjusting the blanket on one of the babies in the stroller. A little girl. She had his eyes. This is Minji, Aaliyah said softly. And this is Hana. And on my chest. This is June. 3 names. 3 lives. 3 pieces of him he didn't know existed. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. Aaliyah straightened, and when she looked at him, there was no anger. Just truth. You walked away, Daehyun. You made it very clear I wasn't part of your world, so I didn't drag you into mine. They're my children, and they're my responsibility. Aaliyah, no. Her voice was steady, strong. You don't get to walk back into my life because guilt finally caught up with you. You made a choice 9 months ago. I made mine today. I'm raising them. Alone. Without you. Without your world. Without the danger that comes with being close to you. Every word was a knife, because she was right. I can protect you, he said. You couldn't before. The truth of it hit harder than any bullet. She turned the stroller, starting to walk away. Aaliyah. She stopped, but didn't turn around. I'm sorry, he said. The words felt foreign. He'd never apologized in his life. Crime lords didn't apologize. But standing there, watching her walk away with his children, he realized he wasn't just a crime lord anymore. He was a father, and he had no idea how to be both. Aaliyah looked back at him one last time. So am I, Daehyun. So am I. Then she was gone, and he stood on that sidewalk, surrounded by bodyguards in the shadows, realizing that the most powerful man in the city had just lost everything that mattered. The days that followed felt like walking through someone else's life. Daehyun went through the motions of being a husband, attended family dinners where Min Seo's father spoke about expansion into new territories, signed off on shipments, made appearances at establishments that paid for his protection, smiled at the right moments, killed with silence when necessary. But at night, he sat in his study with a glass of whiskey he didn't drink, staring at a photograph Jin had taken from a distance. Aaliyah, pushing a stroller through a park. Sunlight caught in her hair. 1 baby on her chest, 2 in the stroller. She was laughing at something. Maybe something one of the babies did. The image was blurry, taken with a long-range lens, but he could see the joy on her face. She looked happy. Without him. The thought should have brought relief. Instead, it carved something hollow in his chest. "You're going to wear a hole in that picture," Jin said from the doorway. Daehyun didn't look up. Update. Jin stepped inside, closing the door. In this room, they didn't pretend. No titles, no formality. Just two men who'd survived too much together to lie. "She's struggling," Jin said. "Works night shifts at the hospital 4 times a week. Daycare for triplets costs more than her rent. She's behind on bills. Last week, her electricity got shut off for 6 hours. Every word was a punch. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because you told me not to interfere. Just watch." Daehyun's jaw clenched. "She has 3 infants, in the dark. And you didn't think—" "I paid the bill," Jin interrupted quietly. "Anonymous donation. She doesn't know it was us." Daehyun exhaled slowly. "Thank you. Don't thank me. Fix it." "I can't." "Can't or won't?" Daehyun finally looked at him. "You know what happens if anyone finds out about them, about her. The Southside family would see it as leverage. My own people would call it weakness. Minseo's father would what? Kill 3 babies?" The silence that followed was answer enough. In their world, babies weren't sacred. They were collateral, bargaining chips, ways to send messages that couldn't be ignored. "So what's the plan?" Jin pressed. "Watch from a distance while she drowns? Pretend those kids don't exist? Go home to a wife you don't love while the woman who gave you 3 children struggles alone? I'm protecting them. By abandoning them?" The words hit like a slap. "You think I don't know that?" Daehyun's voice was low, dangerous. "You think I don't lie awake every night knowing I'm failing them? That every second I stay away, I'm choosing an empire over my own blood? Then stop choosing wrong." Daehyun stood, the chair scraping against hardwood. "It's not that simple. It never is. But you're Daehyun Kong. You've made impossible choices before. You took over an empire at 25 when everyone said you were too young. You ended a war that had been raging since before you were born. You've survived 7 assassination attempts. And you're telling me 3 babies are the thing that breaks you? They're not breaking me. They're changing me." Jin studied him for a long moment. Then he set a folder on the desk. "What's this?" Daehyun asked. "Background check on Aaliyah. You never asked for one when you were together. Figured you'd want it now." Daehyun stared at the folder like it might explode. "She's clean," Jin continued. "No criminal record. No connections to rival families. No red flags. She's exactly what she seems. A good person who fell in love with the wrong man." "I'm not the wrong man." "Then prove it." Jin left, and Daehyun sat alone in his study, the folder unopened. The photograph of Aaliyah and his children staring back at him like an accusation. The breaking point came 3 days later. Daehyun was in a meeting with Minseo's father and the heads of 5 allied families. Territory disputes, profit margins, strategic eliminations, business as usual. His phone vibrated. Jin's name flashed on the screen. Daehyun never took calls during meetings, but something in his gut twisted. "Excuse me," he said, standing. Minseo's father frowned. "We're not finished." "I am." He walked out, answering the phone in the hallway. "Talk." "We have a problem." Jin's voice was tight. "Rival family knows about Aaliyah. They have eyes on her apartment." The world stopped. "How?" "Does it matter? They know. And they're moving tonight." Daehyun was already walking toward the exit. "Where is she?" "Home, with the babies. I've got 2 men on the building, but if they come heavy, I'm 10 minutes out. Do not let anyone near that building." "Boss, if you go yourself, it confirms everything. It tells them she matters. It makes her a permanent target." Daehyun pushed through the doors into the night air. His car was already pulling up, Jin behind the wheel. "I don't care," Daehyun said, climbing in. "Drive." They made it in 7 minutes. Daehyun saw the van immediately. Black, tinted windows, parked across from Alia's building. 2 men in the front seat trying to look casual. Jin slowed the car. "That's them." "How many inside?" "3 on foot. 1 at the back exit. They're boxed in." Daehyun's mind raced. He could call his own men, turn this street into a war zone. But that would draw police, media, attention that would put Alia and the babies on every rival family's radar forever. "Pull over," he said. "Boss, pull over." Jin did. Daehyun stepped out of the car, straightened his jacket, and walked directly toward the van. He didn't hide, didn't sneak, just walked like he owned the street. Because he did. The men in the van saw him coming. One reached for something, probably a gun. Daehyun raised one hand, fingers relaxed, and kept walking. He knocked on the driver's window. It rolled down slowly. The driver was young, mid-20s. Trying to look hard, but fear flickered in his eyes when he recognized who was standing there. "Evening," Daehyun said pleasantly. "Mr. Kang." The driver's voice cracked slightly. "You seem lost." "No, sir, just waiting for someone." "In this neighborhood? At this hour?" Daehyun leaned closer, resting one hand on the window frame. "See, that's interesting, because this is my neighborhood now, and I don't remember giving anyone permission to wait here." The passenger tried to act tough. "We don't need your permission." The driver elbowed him hard. Daehyun smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Let me be very clear," he said softly. "Whatever you think you're doing here, it's done. You're going to drive away. You're going to tell whoever sent you that this building, this block, this woman and her children are under my personal protection. And if I see you, or anyone like you, within 5 miles of here again." He let the sentence hang. The driver swallowed. "Understood. Good." Daehyun straightened. "Oh, and gentlemen, if anything happens to her, or those babies, anything at all, accident or otherwise, I will personally visit everyone you've ever loved. Do we understand each other?" "Yes, sir." "Wonderful. Drive safe." The van pulled away so fast it left rubber on the pavement. Jin appeared at his side. "That just painted a target on all of them." "I know. Minseo's going to hear about this." "I know. Her father's going to ask questions." "I know." Jin studied him. "You just chose, didn't you?" Daehyun looked up at the apartment building. A light was on in Alia's window. He could see her shadow moving, probably feeding one of the babies. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I did." He walked into the building, took the stairs to the 3rd floor, and stood outside her door. For a moment he just listened. A baby crying softly. Alia's voice, singing something gentle. The sound of ordinary life he'd never thought he'd want. He knocked. The singing stopped. Footsteps. The door opened. Alia stood there with June in her arms, surprise and exhaustion, and something else flickering across her face. "Daehyun, you and the babies are in danger," he said. "Pack what you need. You're coming with me." "What? No." "I told you. I know what you told me. But rival families know about you now. They know about them. And I just made it very clear you're under my protection. Which means staying here is signing your death warrant." Fear flashed in her eyes. "Because of you." "Yes, because of me." He met her gaze. "I can't undo that. But I can keep you alive. So you have 2 choices. Come with me now, or stay here and hope I'm fast enough when they come back." Alia held June tighter. "This is exactly why I didn't tell you." "I know. You ruined everything. I know. I hate you." "I know." She stared at him, tears threatening to fall. Then she stepped back. "Give me 10 minutes." The safe house was 20 miles outside the city, buried in woodland that Daehyun's family had owned for 3 generations. It didn't look like much from the outside, a modest cabin with a wraparound porch. But inside, it had everything. Reinforced walls, surveillance systems, enough supplies to last months, and most importantly, complete isolation. Aaliyah stood in the living room, holding Minji while Hana and June slept in carriers on the couch. She hadn't said a word during the drive, just stared out the window, jaw tight, while Jin drove and Daehyun made calls to deploy security around the perimeter. Now, in the quiet of the safe house, the silence felt heavier than words. The bedrooms are upstairs, Daehyun said. I'll have cribs delivered in the morning. For tonight. Why did you really bring us here? Aaliyah interrupted. He looked at her. I told you, you're in danger. We've been in danger since the day I met you. That didn't stop you from walking away 9 months ago. The accusation hung between them. You're right, he said. She blinked, surprised. What? You're right. I walked away. I told myself it was to protect you. But the truth is, I was protecting myself. From having to choose between you and the empire I inherited. From having to be more than what my father raised me to be. He crossed the room slowly, stopping a few feet away. But I can't do that anymore. Because those 3 babies didn't ask to be born into my world. They didn't ask for a father who's a crime lord. And I'll be damned if I let my choices destroy their lives before they even begin. Aaliyah's eyes shimmered. So what? You think moving us to a cabin in the woods fixes everything? No. But it keeps you alive long enough for me to figure out the rest. And what is the rest, Daehyun? You have a wife. An empire. Enemies who now know your weakness. What exactly do you think happens next? I don't know. The honesty of it startled them both. You don't know, she repeated. The man who always has a plan doesn't know. No. He stepped closer. But I know I'm not walking away again. I know those babies deserve a father. And I know that leaving you to fight alone was the worst mistake I've ever made. A tear slipped down Aaliyah's cheek. You can't just show up and expect. I'm not expecting anything. I'm asking. Let me protect you. Let me be here for them. For you. His voice dropped. Please. Minji stirred in Aaliyah's arms, making a small sound. Aaliyah looked down at their daughter, then back at him. You broke my heart, she whispered. I know. I cried for months. I was pregnant and alone and terrified, and the one person I needed was gone. I know. And now you want me to just trust you? Daehyun reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he gently touched Minji's tiny hand. The baby's fingers curled around his instantly. Something in his chest cracked open. I don't deserve your trust, he said quietly. But I'm going to earn it. Every day. For as long as it takes. Aaliyah studied him for a long moment. Then she carefully transferred Minji into his arms. The baby felt impossibly small. Fragile. Perfect. Her name means bright and beautiful, Aaliyah said softly. Hana means flower. And June means talented. They're perfect. They're exhausting. They cry at 3 a.m. They go through diapers faster than I can buy them, and they need more than money and protection, Daehyun. They need a father who's actually here. He looked at her, Minji cradled against his chest. Then that's what I'll be. The first night was chaos. Daehyun had faced down armed enemies, negotiated million-dollar deals, and survived attempts on his life without flinching. But 3 crying babies at 2 a.m. nearly broke him. Why won't she stop? He asked desperately, bouncing Hana while Aaliyah fed June and Minji wailed from the nursery. Because she's 3 months old and doesn't care that you're a crime lord, Aaliyah said, exhaustion making her voice sharp. What do I do? Walk, bounce, sing. Try not to drop her. He paced the living room, bouncing Hana gently. She screamed louder. I'm doing it wrong, he muttered. You're doing fine. She's just... Wait. Aaliyah set June down in his carrier and crossed to Daehyun. Hold her closer, against your chest. She needs to feel your heartbeat. He adjusted his grip, pulling Hana against him. The crying softened, then stopped. Hannah's tiny fist grabbed his shirt, and she sighed, settling against him. Daehyun froze. What did I do? You were her dad. Aaliyah smiled. Small, tired, but real. Babies know. They feel safe when you mean it. He looked down at his daughter, her eyes closed, her breathing evening out. This small person trusted him. And for the first time in his life, Daehyun understood what it meant to be truly terrified. Because he couldn't fail her. 3 days passed in a strange new rhythm. Bottles, diapers, midnight feedings. Aaliyah taught him how to burp the babies, how to read their different cries, how to change a diaper without getting peed on. He failed twice. Jin delivered supplies and updates on the outside world. Minseo was asking questions. Rival families were probing for weakness, and the empire was restless. But inside the cabin, time moved differently. Daehyun sat on the porch at dawn, June asleep on his chest, watching the sunrise paint the trees gold. Aaliyah joined him, 2 cups of coffee in hand. You look tired, she said. I am tired. How do you do this alone? Badly. She sat beside him. I wasn't doing it well, Daehyun. I was drowning. I just didn't have the luxury of admitting it. He looked at her. Really looked. Saw the shadows under her eyes, the weight she'd lost, the exhaustion carved into her beautiful face. I'm sorry, he said. You've said that. I'll keep saying it, until you believe me. She sipped her coffee. Your wife called. Daehyun tensed. When? Jin told me. Apparently she wants to know where you are. What did you tell him to say? Nothing. It's not my place. She paused. But it will be someone's eventually. You can't hide here forever. I know. So what's the plan? He watched June sleep, this tiny person who had his nose in Aaliyah's chin. I'm going to end my marriage, he said quietly. Aaliyah went still. What? Minseo and I. It was never real. It was strategy, alliance. But I can't be a husband to her and a father to them. I have to choose. Daehyun, if you break that alliance, there will be consequences. I know. Her father will see it as betrayal. It might restart the war. It will cost me allies, territory, maybe my life. Then why? He looked at her. Because they're worth it. Because you're worth it. And because I'd rather die trying to be a good father than live as a man who abandoned his children for power. Tears filled Aaliyah's eyes. You can't promise that, she whispered. Watch me. She set down her coffee and leaned her head on his shoulder. And for the first time in 9 months, Daehyun felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The meeting with Minseo's father was scheduled for neutral ground, a restaurant the old man owned, closed for the occasion. Daehyun arrived alone, against Jin's protests. If you go in there without backup and tell him you're ending the marriage, he'll kill you before you reach the door, Jin had argued. Maybe. But I'm not bringing a war to Aaliyah's doorstep. If this is how it ends, so be it. Now he sat across from Don Park, the man who'd built an empire on fear, and expected his daughter's marriage to expand it further. You've been difficult to reach, Don Park said, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. I've had personal matters to attend to. So I've heard. The old man's eyes were cold. 3 of them, if rumors are accurate. Daehyun didn't flinch. The rumors are accurate. I see. Don Park set down his knife. And my daughter. How does she factor into your personal matters? I'm here to dissolve the marriage. The words landed like a grenade. Don Park didn't move, didn't blink. Just studied Daehyun like he was a problem to be solved. You understand what you're asking, the Don said slowly. Our family's united to end a war. That alliance has brought peace, prosperity. You want to throw that away for what? A woman and 3 bastards? Daehyun's jaw tightened. Careful. Or what? You'll threaten me? In my own restaurant. Don Park leaned forward. You're good, boy. I'll give you that. You've built something impressive, but you're not untouchable. And you're certainly not more important than the alliance between our families. The alliance was built on a lie. Minseo and I don't love each other. We're playing house for the sake of territory. That's not a marriage. It's a business arrangement. And I'm terminating the contract. You're terminating your life. Maybe. But I'm not raising my children in a world where I pretend to be someone I'm not. Where I choose power over being their father. My father made that choice. It destroyed him. I won't make the same mistake. Don Park studied him for a long time. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. You really mean it, the old man said. You're willing to die for them. Without hesitation. Even though it restarts the war. Even though it puts your entire organization at risk. Even though it makes you look weak to every rival family on the eastern seaboard. Yes. Don Park sat back, swirling wine in his glass. The silence stretched. You're either the bravest man I've ever met, or the stupidest. Probably both. The Don was quiet for a moment. Then he picked up his wine glass. I'm not giving you my blessing, he said. And I'm not pretending this doesn't complicate things, but... He paused. My daughter told me something interesting. She said you never looked at her the way you looked at that woman in the church. She said you were already gone, even before you knew about the babies. Daehyun said nothing. Minseo deserves better than a husband whose heart belongs to someone else, Don Park continued. And I won't force her into a loveless marriage just to maintain an alliance. We're criminals, yes, but we're not savages. So, what are you saying? I'm saying the marriage is annulled, quietly. No public spectacle. We'll say it was mutual. Irreconcilable differences. The alliance remains intact, but restructured. You keep your territory. I keep mine. We continue to cooperate as allies, not family. Daehyun exhaled slowly. And the war? There won't be one. Not from me, anyway. The Don's eyes hardened. But other families will see this as weakness. They'll test you. Push boundaries. You just made yourself vulnerable, boy. I hope those babies are worth what's coming. They are. Don Park raised his glass. Then I suggest you prepare. Because the moment word gets out that the great Daehyun Kang chose love over power, every enemy you've ever made will come for you. Daehyun returned to the safe house at midnight. Aaliyah was awake, rocking Minji in the nursery. The soft glow of a nightlight painted her face in gold and shadow. She looked up when he entered. How did it go? The marriage is over. Her eyes widened. He agreed? He did. But it's going to cost me. Other families will see it as weakness. There will be challenges, probably violence. And you're okay with that? He crossed the room, gently taking Minji from her arms. The baby made a small sound, but settled against his chest, her tiny fingers curling into his shirt. I spent my whole life being told that power was the only thing that mattered. He said quietly, that love made you weak. That family was a liability, and I believed it. Until I held her. He looked down at Minji, her tiny hand wrapped around his finger. She doesn't care that I'm a crime lord. She doesn't care about territory or alliances or empires. She just needs me to be her dad. And that's the most important thing I'll ever be. Aaliyah's eyes filled with tears. You really mean that? Every word. She stepped closer, resting her hand on his arm. Her touch was warm, real. Everything his world had never been. This won't be easy, she said, loving you. Raising them in your world. Watching you face enemies who want you dead. I know. And I can't promise I'll ever fully forgive you for the 9 months you were gone. I don't expect you to. I just want the chance to prove I'm not going anywhere again. She looked up at him. This man who'd broken her heart and was now holding their daughter like she was made of glass. Then prove it, she whispered. He kissed her forehead. Gentle. Reverent. A promise sealed without words. Every day for the rest of my life. 3 months later, the cabin had transformed into something Dae-hyun never thought he'd have. A home. Cribs in the nursery. Toys scattered across the floor. The smell of coffee and baby formula mixing in the morning air. Laughter when the triplets discovered their toes. Chaos when they all cried at once. Dae-hyun still ran his empire, but differently now. He worked from the cabin most days, taking calls with a baby on his lap. Jin handled field operations. The organization adapted. And surprisingly, it worked. Turns out a crime lord who fought for his family was more feared than one who fought for power alone. Rival families tested him twice. Both times he responded with calculated precision that reminded everyone why he'd survived this long. The message was clear. He'd chosen love, but he hadn't lost his edge. If anything, he'd become more dangerous, because now he had something to lose. One evening, Aaliyah found him on the porch, all 3 babies asleep on his chest in a complicated arrangement of carriers and blankets. "You look ridiculous," she said, smiling. "I look like a dad. A dad who runs a criminal empire. Can't I be both?" She sat beside him, resting her head on his shoulder. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. "You know, when I first met you, I thought you were just a businessman," she said. "Rich, powerful, a little dangerous. But I never imagined this." "Imagined what?" "You, covered in spit-up, singing lullabies at 3 a.m., changing diapers like it's a tactical operation." He laughed quietly, the sound rumbling in his chest. June stirred but didn't wake. "Neither did I. Do you regret it? Giving up the marriage? The alliance?" He looked down at June, Hana, and Minji, 3 perfect little humans who had completely destroyed his carefully controlled life. "Not for a second." Aaliyah lifted her head, looking at him with eyes that still held hurt, but also hope. Something softer. Something that looked like the beginning of trust. "I love you," she said softly. "I tried not to. I tried to hate you. But I can't. I love you too. I never stopped. Then prove it. Not just with words. With time. With showing up. With being the father they deserve, and the man I hoped you could be." He kissed her then. Slow, gentle, full of promises he intended to keep. When they pulled apart, Minji stirred, opening her eyes. She looked at her parents, and something that might have been a smile crossed her tiny face. "See?" Aaliyah whispered. "She knows." "Knows what?" "That you're finally where you belong." Dae-hyun held his family close, watching the sun disappear behind the trees. He'd built an empire on fear. But this love, this chaos, these 3 tiny humans who owned his heart, this was the only empire that mattered. And he would burn the whole world down to protect it. The peace lasted exactly 6 weeks. Dae-hyun was feeding Hana at 2 a.m. when his phone lit up. Jin's name flashed on the screen. He answered on the first ring, keeping his voice low so he wouldn't wake the other babies. "Talk. We have a problem." Jin's voice was tight, controlled, the way it only got when things were bad. "Someone just tried to breach the perimeter. 3 men, professional. They retreated when our security engaged. But boss." "But what?" "They weren't trying to get in. They were taking pictures. Surveillance. They wanted us to know they found you." Dae-hyun's blood went cold. "Who sent them?" "Don't know yet. But whoever it is, they're not playing games. This was a message." Dae-hyun looked down at Hana, her eyes half closed as she drank her bottle, completely unaware that the world her father had tried to protect her from had just found them. "Double the security," he said quietly, "and find out who they were working for. I want names by morning." "Already on it. But boss, if they found the safe house, they know about Aaliyah and the babies. You can't hide them anymore." "I know." He ended the call. Hana finished her bottle, and he carefully burped her, his mind already running through scenarios, contingencies, threats. Aaliyah appeared in the doorway, wrapped in one of his shirts, her hair messy from sleep. "What's wrong?" she asked. He didn't lie to her. Not anymore. "Someone found us." Fear flickered across her face. "Who?" "I don't know yet, but they will come back, and next time, it won't just be surveillance." She crossed the room, taking Hana from him and holding their daughter close. "So what do we do?" Dae-hyun stood, looking out the window at the dark woods surrounding the cabin. Somewhere out there, eyes were watching, planning, waiting. "We fight," he said quietly, "and we make sure they regret ever threatening my family." The answer came at dawn. Jin arrived with a manila folder and a grim expression. "You're not going to like this," he said. They sat at the kitchen table, while Aliyah kept the babies in the nursery. Dae-hyun opened the folder. Inside were surveillance photos. The 3 men who'd approached the cabin, and beneath them, a single piece of paper with a message written in neat handwriting. "The Kang Empire ends where it began. With family. With blood. With choices that can't be unmade. You took something from me once, Dae-hyun. Now I'm taking everything from you, starting with them." No signature. But Dae-hyun didn't need one. He knew that handwriting. He knew that phrasing. And he knew exactly who had found them. "It's him," Dae-hyun said, his voice barely above a whisper. Jin leaned forward. "Who?" Dae-hyun's hands clenched on the table, his jaw tight, eyes dark with something that looked like old guilt rising from a grave he thought he'd buried. "My brother." Jin's eyes widened. "Your brother's dead. He died in the fire 12 years ago when... That's what everyone was supposed to think." Dae-hyun stood, pacing to the window. "That's what my father told me, what I believed. But if this is really him..." He trailed off, staring at the woods. "If he's alive," Dae-hyun continued, "then everything I thought I knew about my past is a lie. And he's coming for the one thing I can't afford to lose. The babies," Jin said quietly. "Not just the babies." Dae-hyun turned back. "He wants revenge for what happened 12 years ago, for what our father did, for what I did." "What did you do?" Dae-hyun's silence was answer enough. Jin stood. "Boss, if your brother is alive and he's coming after your family, we need to move them. Now. Get them somewhere he can't..." "There is nowhere he can't find us. Not if he's been watching this whole time. Not if he knows every move I've made." "Then what do we do?" Dae-hyun looked at the folder again, at the message, at the threat against the 3 most important people in his world. "We end this," he said. "The way we should have 12 years ago." Aliyah stood in the nursery doorway, having heard everything. "You have a brother," she said quietly. "Had. I thought I had a brother. And now he's coming for us." Dae-hyun crossed to her, taking her hands in his. "I won't let him touch you. Or them. I promise. You promised me peace, Dae-hyun. You promised me safety. I know. And now you're telling me there's a ghost from your past who wants to destroy everything we've built?" He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "I'm telling you that I made mistakes a long time ago. And now those mistakes are coming home. But I will die before I let him hurt you or our children." She pulled back, tears in her eyes. "I don't want you to die. I want you to be here, to be their father, to be..." A sound cut her off, glass shattering downstairs. Dae-hyun moved instantly, pushing Aliyah behind him. "Get the babies. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me or Jin." "Dae-hyun." "Now!" She ran to the nursery. Dae-hyun pulled a gun from the safe in the bedroom and moved toward the stairs. Jin was already there, weapon drawn. 3 hostiles, Jin whispered. "Ground floor. They're not trying to hide. Because they want me to know they're here." Dae-hyun descended the stairs slowly, every sense on high alert. The living room was dark except for the moonlight streaming through the broken window. And standing in the center of the room, surrounded by shattered glass, was a man Dae-hyun thought he'd never see again. Same eyes, same jawline, but scarred now, burned, changed by 12 years and whatever hell he'd survived. "Hello, little brother," the man said. His voice was rough, damaged, but unmistakable. "Hyun-woo," Dae-hyun breathed. His brother smiled. It wasn't kind. "Surprised? You should be. You left me to burn after all. I thought you were dead. You thought I was convenient." Hyun-woo stepped forward. "You took everything, Dae-hyun, the empire, the respect, the family name, and I got ashes. That's not what happened. Don't you dare lie to me." Hyun-woo's voice cracked like a whip. "I know what you did. I know why you let that fire happen. And now." He pulled out his phone, showing Dae-hyun a photo. Aaliyah, the triplets, taken from outside the cabin. "Now I'm going to take everything from you." Dae-hyun raised his gun. "You won't touch them." "Oh, I won't have to." Hyun-woo's smile widened. "Because you're going to give them to me." "Never." "Then they die. Along with that beautiful woman you love so much. Along with every person in this cabin. I have men surrounding this property, Dae-hyun. One word from me, and this place becomes a tomb." Jin shifted behind him, ready to fire. But Hyun-woo raised a hand. "I wouldn't. The moment I don't check in, my men burn this cabin to the ground, with everyone inside." Dae-hyun's mind raced, calculating, planning, searching for a way out that didn't end with his family dead. "What do you want?" he asked. "Simple. You come with me, alone, right now, and I let them live." "You expect me to believe?" "I don't care what you believe. You have 30 seconds to decide, your life or theirs." Upstairs, one of the babies started crying. "Minji." Dae-hyun's heart shattered. 20 seconds, Hyun-woo said. Dae-hyun looked at Jin, then at the stairs where his family waited. 10 seconds. He lowered his gun. "I'll go." "No!" Jin grabbed his arm. "Boss, if you go with him?" "They live," Dae-hyun finished. He looked at Jin. "Protect them. No matter what happens to me, promise me." Jin's jaw clenched. "I promise." Dae-hyun set down his gun and walked toward his brother. Hyun-woo's smile was triumphant. "Smart choice. Let me say goodbye." "You have 1 minute." Dae-hyun climbed the stairs, his heart pounding. Aaliyah opened the nursery door, all 3 babies in her arms, tears streaming down her face. "Don't do this," she whispered. He kissed her, deep, desperate, like it was the last time. "I love you," he said, "and I will come back to you. To them. I promise." Dae-hyun. But he was already pulling away, kissing each baby's forehead. "Be good for your mother," he whispered to them. "And know that everything I do for you." Then he walked out, down the stairs, to his brother, to whatever fate waited in the darkness. Hyun-woo grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the door. "Let's go, little brother. We have 12 years to catch up on." As they disappeared into the night, Aaliyah collapsed in the nursery, clutching her babies, sobbing. And Jin stood at the window, watching the man he'd sworn to protect walk into hell. For love, for family, for 3 tiny humans who would never remember this night, but whose father had just sacrificed everything to keep them safe. To be continued in episode 2.